Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in the seventh session of this series on Bhagavad Gita. As we know, अब तक के 6 सेशंस में हमने प्राइमरीली एक थीम को पिकअप किया था, विच थीम वॉज ऑल अबाउट वाई वी शुड बी डूइंग सर्टन थिंग्स. हमने देखा कि क्यों कुछ चीज़ें करनी चाहिए और क्यों कुछ चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट है. कौन सी चीज़ें? विच ऑल थिंग्स? We have seen that why it is important to focus on the work and not the outcome. कर्म करते रहो लेकिन फल की आशा मत करो. ये ज़रूरी क्यों है? Why is it important is something we have seen. We have seen why is it important to start from the I, the swadharma, the duty towards your own self. Why is it important to start with questioning yourself, understanding yourself, figuring out who you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the things that bring you into the flow state, what are the things that bring you out of the flow state. अपने आप को पहचानना क्यों इतना ज़रूरी है, why, ये हमने देखा. और उसके लिए हमने देखा स्वधर्म टूल, the SWOT analysis updated or modified to fit into the possibilities of your life, possibilities from your potential. इसीलिए मैंने वो जो स्वधर्म टूल था उसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया, उसका एग्जाम्पल दिया, एग्जाम्प्लिफिकेशन दे के मैंने समझाया कि उसको किस तरह से यूज़ किया जा सकता है टू अलाइन टू पीपल, टू अलाइन टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, टू फिगर आउट हु इज इट एंड विच ऑफ द थिंग्स कैन यू फील अलाइन टू, है ना. बट ये सारी चीज़ें जो हमने देखी, यू नो, वाई इज इट इंपॉर्टेंट टू बी फोकस्ड ऑन द लॉन्ग टर्म, नॉट ऑन द शॉर्ट टर्म. वाई इज इट इंपॉर्टेंट टू बी सबसर्वेंट टू लार्जर scheme of things, the larger goal, the larger good of people around you, of things around you. Why is it important to prioritize the duty towards your own self and then the duty towards your own society? Why is it important to have purpose? अपने लाइफ में कोई एक लक्ष्य का होना बहुत ज़रूरी क्यों है? क्यों अपने माइंड को कंट्रोल करना ज़रूरी है? Why is it important to control your mind? Why is it important to not be swayed by your senses? अपने senses से, अपने desires से, अपनी इच्छाओं से बह जाना, you know, क्यों अच्छा नहीं है और उसको क्यों कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, उसके ऊपर क्यों एक काबू लाना चाहिए. ये सब चीज़ों के वाई का आंसर हमने खोजा. यू नो, इंटेलेक्चुअली हमने ये एक्सप्लोर किया कि वाई ये सब ज़रूरी है. यू नो, एंड इन द 6th सेशन, छठे सेशन में हमने हाउ को पहली बार टच किया. वी टच दी हाउ ऑफ इट, कि ठीक है, समझ तो गए ये ज़रूरी क्यों है, हम समझ तो गए कि चलो ये सारी चीज़ें ज़रूरी है, लेकिन इसको अब किया कैसे जाए. ये कंट्रोल करना ज़रूरी है, समझ गए, बट कंट्रोल करे तो कैसे करे. यू नो, इक्वानिमिटी ज़रूरी है, सुख दुख में एक ही समभाव के साथ आगे जाना ज़रूरी, बट ये लाए कैसे अपने लाइफ में. ये हमने 6th सेशन में इस चीज़ को लेके शुरुआत की कि हाउ को हमने, you know, we started exploring, and the first part of that was controlling your mind, right? We figured out कि how if you have to change the externalities of your life, अपने जीवन के बाहरी चीज़ों को अगर बदलना है तो अपने आप, अपने अंदर से अपने माइंड को बदलना ज़रूरी क्यों है. हाउ टू चेंज योर माइंड एंड माइंड सेट इज़ गोइंग टू इम्पैक्ट योर एक्सटर्नैलिटीज़ सो मच, राइट. इसको हमने देखा और वो हाउ के लिए हमने ब्रेथ एक्सरसाइजेस, ब्रेथ कंट्रोल को एक्सप्लोर किया एंड वी फिगर्ड आउट कि हाउ अवर ब्रेथ कंट्रोल्स अवर इमोशंस. अगर हम गुस्सा है और उसी वक्त अगर हम लोग अपने श्वासोश्वास को, श्वास उश्वास को, ब्रीदिंग इन एंड ब्रीदिंग आउट को अगर स्लो डाउन करें, डेलिबरेटली स्लो डाउन करें, तो कैसे अपना गुस्सा अपने आप शांत हो जाता है, राइट. यू नो, एंड दिस एंड मच मोर दैट वी एक्सप्लोर्ड इन द 6th सेशन. और अब अगर हमको देखना है कि इसको और अभी हाउ को और अगर एक्सप्लोर करना है, राइट, तो वी फिगर्ड आउट कि देयर वाज वन मोर थिंग दैट वी टच्ड इन द 6th सेशन, विच वाज द 21 डे रूल फॉर चेंजिंग योर हैबिट्स, इजंट इट. कि अगर कोई हैबिट, अगर अपने, यू नो, इफ़ यू वांट टू have a habit in your life, you know, formulate a habit for yourself in your life, or you want to move away from a particular habit that you have. अगर अपने आप को किसी एक हैबिट में ढालना है या किसी हैबिट से निकालना है अपने आप को, तो उसके लिए 21 दिन तक कॉन्शियसली उस चीज़ को करना या ना करना ज़रूरी है, राइट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई एक्सप्लेन कि हाउ इफ फॉर 21 days you can refrain from smoking, then it will be easier for you to break the habit of smoking, that addiction, isn't it. 21 day rule को देखा था कि कैसे अगर एक्सरसाइज करना आपके लाइफ में, you know, it's not a habit, then you know how it's important that for 21 days consistently you know, spend time at a particular time slot, you know, consistently for those 25 days you exercise, whether it is for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, doesn't matter, but you exercise, you know, कि every day come what may, फिर भूचाल आए, फिर काम में बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर आए, या जो भी हो, 5, 10, 15 मिनट जो भी हो, you have to exercise. If you do it for 21 days, the habit will formulate and slowly it will become natural for you, right. So ये 21 day rule जो हमने देखा, we have seen that, but the biggest problem is कि वो 21 दिन तक कैसे करें. right? You know, the biggest issues that we face in terms of transformation, not in terms of, you know, doing, you know, some simple things, you know, so adding some routines in your life. You know, anyone can make change happen, but to make a transformation happen, you know, अंदर बाह्य अगर पूरा बदलना है अपने आप को, तो वो उस तरह की ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के लिए सबसे बड़ी चीज़, इवन इफ दैट 21 डे इज़ अ पॉसिबिलिटी, वो 21 दिन तक कंटिन्यूसली कुछ चीज़ करना इट सेल्फ इज़ अ चैलेंज, right? And how is it that you will be able to carry through these 21 days? Simple cheese, you have to have motivation and you have to have commitment. Motivation and commitment. आपको एक कोई ना कोई तो एक ट्रिगर लगता है, you know, कि ये मैं करूँ, ये चीज़ मैं करूँ, 21 दिन तक क्यों ना हो, बट मैं ये चीज़ करूँ, ये ट्रिगर लगता है, एक मोटिवेशन लगता है। और वो 21 दिन में चैलेंजेस आएंगे, प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगे। अगर एक्सरसाइज का ही एग्जांपल मैं कंटिन्यू करूँ तो योर बॉडी विल पेन, योर बॉडी विल एक फॉर द फर्स्ट फ्यू डेज दैट यू एक्सरसाइज, बिकॉज यू आर नॉट यूज्ड टू एक्सरसाइजिंग, एंड डिस्पाइट दैट द नेक्स्ट डे यू हैव टू स्टिल, you know, go ahead and do that exercise. You know, it takes commitment. You know, it takes commitment for you to kind of continually do certain thing or not do certain thing, right? So motivation and commitment, ये दो जो चीज़ें हैं, उसी से चीज़ें बदलती हैं, right? There is this one beautiful quote that I was told during my entrepreneurship class during my MBA. You know, हमारे MBA के वक्त में एक entrepreneurship management का एक you know सेशन हुआ करता था, और उस सेशन में सबसे पहले लेक्चर में हमको बताया गया था कि आप अगर in the current context, if you see 100 successful startups, behind those 100 successful startups there are probably 1000 failed startups, and behind those 1000 failed startups there are probably 10,000 startups which never moved beyond the idea stage. You know, कि अगर 100 स्टार्टअप्स अगर आप सक्सेसफुल देखते हैं मार्केट में, तो 100 के पीछे 1000 फेलियर्स होंगे, 1000 स्टार्टअप्स होंगे जो फेल हुए हैं, और उन 1000 फेल स्टार्टअप्स के पीछे 10,000 स्टार्टअप्स होंगे जो आइडिया के आगे ही नहीं जा पाए. You know, those particular entrepreneurs or businessmen or you know the individuals, वो जो भी थे, जिनके पास एक बहुत ही बहुत ही बढ़िया सी कोई आइडिया थी, फैंटास्टिक आइडिया, $1 billion आइडिया, right? But and they knew that it's a $1 billion idea, but because they didn't act on that idea, because उन्होंने उस आइडिया के ऊपर काम ही नहीं किया, तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं, आगे कुछ बढ़ा ही नहीं. तो उन्होंने हमको सिखाया कि आइडिया इन इटसेल्फ इज नथिंग, आइडिया इज जीरो, आइडिया इज नथिंग. लाइक आई मे हैव अ ब्यूटीफुल स्क्रिप्ट इन माई माइंड, मेरे पास एक बहुत ही बढ़िया सी कोई स्क्रिप्ट होगी, बहुत बढ़िया सी एक फैंटास्टिक सी स्टोरी का आइडिया होगा, कोई प्लॉट होगा, मुझे लग रहा हो कि यार इस चीज़ के ऊपर मैं अगर कोई बुक लिख दूँ तो बुक तो मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा हिट हो जाएगी. आई माइट हैव अ ब्यूटीफुल idea for a business, startup plan, but if I don't act on any of it, what's the point? मुझे लगेगा कि शायद मैं अगर यार इस तरह की एक्सरसाइज 1 महीना करूँ तो शायद मैं बहुत फिट हो जाऊँगा, पर अगर मैंने एक्सरसाइज ही नहीं की तो व्हाट्स द पॉइंट, राइट? सो द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट आवर प्रोफेसर टॉट अस वाज आइडिया प्लस एक्शन इज अपॉर्चुनिटी. सिर्फ आइडिया इज नॉट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी. बहुत लोग कहते हैं कि अरे हमारा इतना बढ़िया आइडिया, $1 billion आइडिया. The idea in itself is not a $1 billion idea. The idea, if it is acted on, then it's a $1 billion opportunity. But it is still not a $1 billion business, है ना? Idea plus action is just opportunity. अभी तक वो business नहीं बना है. बिजनेस कब बनेगा? बिजनेस तब बनेगा जब उस अपॉर्चुनिटी के ऊपर आप कमिटमेंट के साथ काम करते रहे. आप इन्वेस्टर्स ढूंढे, इन्वेस्टर्स के बाद में एक मिनिमम वायबल प्रोडक्ट बनाए, एक पर्टिकुलर एक काम चालू कर दे, बिजनेस चालू कर दे, और फिर उसको स्केल अप करे. यू इन्वेस्ट ऑन इट, यू पुट इन एफर्ट्स एंड यू ग्रो द बिजनेस कंसिस्टेंटली डिस्पाइट द फेलियर्स. ऐसे थोड़ी कि काम चालू किया और दूसरे दिन सक्सेस मिल गया. सक्सेस कम्स इवेंचुअली ऑफ कोर्स थ्रू अ सीरीज ऑफ फेलियर्स, और थ्रू दो सीरीज ऑफ फेलियर्स अगर आप उस अपॉर्चुनिटी को कमिटमेंट के साथ लगे रहें उस पर, दैट कम व्हाट मे, आई जस्ट कंटिन्यू डूइंग दिस, then with that commitment finally you get results, right? So idea in itself is nothing. Idea plus action is still just opportunity, but it's an opportunity, right? Now you know that okay, there's an opportunity in this, right? And then when that opportunity is committed to, that's when the business comes in, that's when the outcome comes in, that's when the results come in, that's when the progress happens, right? And अगर आप देखें तो यहाँ मैंने लिखा है progress, मैंने नहीं लिखा आउटकम, मैंने लिखा रिजल्ट, मैंने लिखा सक्सेस, राइट? आई जस्ट सेड कि आप पहले जहाँ थे वहाँ से आगे ज़रूर जाएंगे. सक्सेस मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, nobody knows. Your work is to just do your work, right? That's the thing, isn't it? So what will kind of help you convert your idea into an action? That's motivation. आप तभी उस आइडिया के ऊपर काम करेंगे when you are motivated to act on that idea, right? So motivation is the first key thing, एंड द सेकेंड की थिंग, उस अपॉर्चुनिटी को आप कमिटमेंट कब करोगे, जब आपके पास में फेथ होगा, राइट. सो व्हाट आर दीज टू इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स, राइट. सी व्हेन देयर इज एन आइडिया, if I'm not motivated to act on an idea, and that motivation can be anything, that motivation can be money, that hey, this idea can get me $1,000,000, fine, that money could be the motivation. It could be fame, that hey, this idea can get me the fame, millions of people will recognize me, the fame could be motivation. It could be ki I'll be able to do the work that I love, that day in day out, come what may, I'll do the work that I like, that could be the motivation. The motivation could be anything, कुछ भी हो सकता है मोटिवेशन. बट अगर वो कुछ मोटिवेशन आपके पास में हो, तब जाके ना उस आइडिया पे आप काम करोगे, नहीं तो क्या काम करोगे, राइट. एंड देन अगर अपॉर्चुनिटी है, तो अपॉर्चुनिटी के ऊपर जब काम करोगे तो उसमें फेलियर्स आएंगे, आपको इमीडिएट सक्सेस नहीं मिलेगा, आपको चैलेंजेस आएंगे, प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगे. वो प्रॉब्लम्स, चैलेंजेस, फेलियर्स के बाद भी अगर इफ़ यू हैव टू कंटिन्यू वर्किंग ऑन इट, व्हाट विल मेक यू कमिट टू दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी, दैट विल बी फेथ. Faith that yes, come what may, I will make this work, this will work, this will happen. You figure out any biggest of successes or any biggest of ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल थिंग्स दैट हैव हैपेंड इन दिस वर्ल्ड. जब फ्लाइट भी, जब किसी ने पहली बार कोई प्लेन उड़ाया, तो ऐसे थोड़ी कि उसने आइडिया लाया प्लेन बनाने का, प्लेन बनाया और वो उड़ गया. There would have been so many failed models wherein they couldn't fly, and only then after some such long time they finally could fly, isn't it? तो बहुत सारे सीरीज ऑफ फेलियर्स के बाद जाके कभी तो सक्सेस मिलता है. सो उस सक्सेस तक अगर परसिस्टेंस आपको दिखाना है, तो परसिस्टेंस कब होगा, व्हेन यू आर कमिटेड टू इट. एंड व्हेन विल द कमिटमेंट कम इन, द कमिटमेंट विल कम इन व्हेन देयर इज फेथ. व्हाट्स दैट फेथ? द फेथ दैट दिस विल वर्क, that this is what will yield result, if not today, tomorrow. आज नहीं तो कल, बट ये चलेगा, ये होगा, ये करेंगे, ये हम करके दिखाएंगे, राइट. ये फेथ और ये मोटिवेशन का ही खेल है. जो भी कोई ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होना है अपने आप के अंदर या अपने आजू बाजू में, वो या तो मोटिवेशन से होगा या तो फेथ से होगा. बिकॉज अगर आइडिया है दिमाग में, अगर आइडिया है तो मोटिवेशन होगा, तो काम तो होगा ही. काम होगा तो अपॉर्चुनिटी तो बनेगी, अपॉर्चुनिटी बनेगी तो उसके ऊपर अगर कमिटमेंट करेंगे तो आगे कुछ ना कुछ तो होगा. आप गलतियां करोगे, गलतियों से सीखोगे, इंप्रूव करोगे, आगे जाओगे, और प्रोग्रेस तो होना ही है, राइट. सो द की थिंग्स आर मोटिवेशन एंड फेथ. ना अगर मोटिवेशन एंड फेथ ये की है, तो व्हाट विल गेट अस दैट मोटिवेशन एंड फेथ? क्या करने से अपनों को ये मोटिवेशन मिलेगा और क्या करने से हमको फेथ मिलेगा, राइट. कृष्णा सेज दैट लिसन टू ईच हिज ओन. कृष्णा कहता है कि कोई एक फॉर्मूला नहीं है, ये मोटिवेशन का और फेथ का कोई एक फॉर्मूला नहीं है जो सबको अप्लाई हो. ही सेइंग इट कांट बी अप्लाइड इन अ ब्लैंकेट वे टू एनीबडी एंड एवरीबडी. क्यों? बिकॉज ही सेइंग दैट देयर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ पीपल. अलग अलग तरीके के लोग हैं और अलग अलग तरीकों के लिए अलग अलग चीज़ें अप्लाई करनी पड़ती है, राइट. अगेन इफ आई गो बैक टू द सिंपलेस्ट ऑफ एक्सरसाइजेस, लाइक हर एक का बॉडी का टाइप सेम नहीं होता है. आजकल हम सीख रहे हैं. अभी इनिशियली क्या था, अगर वेट कम करना है भागने जाओ, वेट कम करना है खाना बंद कर दो, फास्टिंग करो, वेट कम करना है जिम में चले जाओ, एक्सरसाइज करो, पतले हो जाओगे. एंड देन पीपल यूज टू फील कि यार मैं एक्सरसाइज कर रहा हूँ फिर भी पतला नहीं हो रहा हूँ, खाना कट कर रहा हूँ फिर भी पतला नहीं हो रहा हूँ. देन दे रियलाइज कि नहीं, ओ देर आर डिफरेंट बॉडी टाइप्स. There are some people for whom metabolism is very high. There are some people for whom metabolism is low. There are some people who process carbohydrates in a particular way. There are some people who process proteins in a particular way. तो हर एक की बॉडी टाइप के हिसाब से वो पर्टिकुलर डाइट उनके लिए ज़रूरी है. उस पर्टिकुलर डाइट के हिसाब से वो पर्टिकुलर एक्सरसाइज ज़रूरी है. हर एक को हर एक्सरसाइज फिट करती है, ऐसे भी नहीं. हर एक को हर पर्टिकुलर एक्सरसाइज उसी तरह से इम्पैक्ट करती है, ऐसे भी नहीं. तो अपने अपने बॉडी टाइप के हिसाब से अगर आप अपनी अपनी डाइट को चेंज करोगे और अपने अपने एक्सरसाइज पैटर्न्स को बदलोगे, तो आपको ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन बहुत आसानी से अच्छी तरह से मिलेगा, right. So that is same thing that applies in our physiological, psychological transformation as well. And Krishna is saying, among thousands of men someone strives for perfection. Even among those who strive for perfection, someone only knows me. And among those who know me, someone only knows me in reality. So एक तो ये कह रहा है कि there are different types of people. On top of it, each and everyone is in a different stage of the journey. कोई ऊपर नीचे नहीं है, कोई कम ज़्यादा नहीं है, कोई क्लास में एक वक्त पे एग्जाम नहीं होने वाला है. इट्स नॉट दैट देयर इज गोइंग टू बी एन एग्जाम सडनली एंड देन whoever cracks it becomes first, stands first, whoever cracks it the next, becomes second, and then those who can't, they fail. It's a cycle, right? So it's just that somebody is ahead of someone, but it's just for that particular point of time. आगे जाके शायद जो पीछे वो भी आगे चला जाएगा, right? It's not a race, right? At any point of time there are different type of people, and then within those different type of people there are different stages of maturity as well, right? So अब इसको समझने के लिए थोड़ा एक let's take a quick break and then kind of introspect when I'm now speaking about these different 4 streams of action or streams of action plans, which will help you be motivated and get that faith in your life. Motivation and faith का ही खेल है. तो वो मोटिवेशन और फेथ लाने के लिए 4 तरीके हैं, 4 अलग अलग तरीके हैं, लूज ग्रुपिंग्स, कि ये 4 डिफरेंट तरीके हैं. नाउ बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट काइंड ऑफ पर्सन यू आर, यू कैन पिक विच इज द राइट थिंग फॉर यू टू पिक. ठीक है, तो अब लेट्स डाइव डीप ऑन दिस. नाउ इमेजिन देर इज वन सच पर्सन एंड इट कुड बी एनी ऑफ अस इन द ग्रुप, or somebody who you know or somebody who we know from examples as well, right? And for now let me quote the example of Tendulkar. Tendulkar को बचपन में ही जब उनके बड़े भाई ने, अजीत तेंदुलकर ने, जब उनके हाथ में बैट पकड़ाई और उनको बोला कि खेलो, एंड व्हेन ही वाज नेचुरली इंक्लाइंड टू प्ले वेल, अजीत तेंदुलकर ने कहा कि घर पे बड़ा परेशान करता है लोगों को, ही जस्ट ट्रबल्स एवरीबडी इन द फैमिली, ही इज सच अ मॉन्स्टर ऑफ अ चाइल्ड, and extremely energetic and high in energy, but seems to be interested in the batting and all that. So let me just take him to a coach, और वो उनको लेके गए आचरेकर सर के पास में. एंड आचरेकर सर के साथ जब तेंदुलकर खेलने लगे तो उस बचपन की उस छोटी सी उम्र में ही तेंदुलकर को पता चला कि यही है मेरी लाइफ, दिस इज माई लाइफ, I am in this only for this love of sport, which is cricket, and that too love for batting primarily, and I'm good at it and I would want to express myself the best in this way only. यही मैं कर सकता हूँ, बाकी सब जो है वो तो है, but this is me, this is what defines me. उस छोटी सी उम्र में तेंदुलकर को पता चल गया था, बिकॉज ऑफ वॉट एवर द सिचुएशन, द कॉन्टेक्स्ट, द सपोर्ट फ्रॉम हिज एल्डर ब्रदर, द सपोर्ट फ्रॉम हिज फैमिली, इंसिडेंटली गॉट आचरेकर सर टू ग्रूम हिम, टू कोच हिम, whatever, but at that very small immature age he knew this is it, this is what would define me, this is what I would want to do day in day out, come what may, भूख प्यास पढ़ाई जो भी हो सबको बाजू में रख के मुझे बस अब क्रिकेट खेलना है, right? There are those people who at that very ripe young age know very clearly, they may not define the profession well, right? वो ये नहीं कहेंगे कि मुझे भैया साइकेट्रिस्ट होना है, या मुझे भैया हार्ट का डॉक्टर होना है, या लंग्स का डॉक्टर होना है, बट दे प्रॉब्ली वुड हैव क्लियरिटी गेट मुझे मेडिकल स्पेस में कुछ तो करना है, या मुझे लोगों को ठीक करना है, मुझे लोगों का डिजीज ठीक करना है. It could be a very high level, very immature understanding of the focus they want to carry, and that will develop eventually. धीरे धीरे उनको लगेगा कि I would want to pick up biology, then I want to pick up medicinal science, I would want to rather pick up surgery, within that I'll rather pick up brain surgery. You will eventually mature into a very specific niche focus. But बहुत शुरुआत से ही आपको बहुत ऐसे, मेरे खुद के बहुत सारे दोस्त हैं, मैं नहीं हूँ unfortunately, since my चाइल्डहुड डेज आई हैड नो क्लैरिटी व्हाट आई वांट टू डू इन माय लाइफ. मेरे को बहुत लेट अभी जाके थोड़ी क्लैरिटी आ रही है कि मुझे लाइफ में करना क्या है, राइट? बट देयर आर दोज पीपल हु एट अ वेरी अर्ली एज आर वेरी क्लियर उनको लाइफ में करना क्या है, राइट? एंड देन व्हेन दे हैव दैट पर्पस इन देयर लाइफ कि मुझे लाइफ में अब यही करना है, मुझे डांसर बनना है, मुझे एक्टर बनना है, मुझे क्रिकेटर बनना है, मुझे डॉक्टर बनना है, मुझे इंजीनियर बनना है, मुझे इन्वेंटर बनना है, मुझे बिजनेसमैन बनना है, whatever that dream, whatever that aspiration could be, as a child when you have that, right? And it could be really 0.01% of the people, right? And not all of them are successful. We only know जब वो कोई successful बन जाता है, and when they come in the interviews and people ask them, क्या आपको बचपन से ही लगता था आप एक्टर बनोगे, क्या आपको बचपन से ही लगता था आप क्रिकेटर बनोगे, and then they say हाँ मुझे तो बचपन से ही लगता था मैं एक्टर बनूंगा, मुझे तो बचपन से ही पता था मुझे क्रिकेटर बनना है, right? And then you say wow इनको तो बचपन से ही पता था. There probably would be hundreds and thousands of others who also knew that they wanted to be actors, who also knew they wanted to be cricketers, but that never happened. But probably whatever they tried, eventually the challenges of their life caught up with them, they had the family to sustain, they didn't have as much money, they had to work on that, and they probably lost their dreams midway, whatever, right? There are so many stories which are untold, बहुत सारी कहानियाँ जो हमारे तक पहुँचती नहीं है, तो ऐसे भी लोग हैं जिनको पता होता है बट उसको परसू नहीं कर सकते हैं, राइट? बट देन यस देर आर दोज 0.01% वॉट एवर एक्स नंबर ऑफ पीपल कि जिनको बहुत क्लियर होता है कि लाइफ में मुझे यही पर्पज़ है, यही करना है. एंड व्हेन दे हैव दैट पर्पज़, बहुत ही ऑटोमेटिकली नेचुरली वो इस पर्टिकुलर ढांचे में आ जाता है कि एवरीथिंग एल्स इज सबसर्वेंट टू दैट पर्पज़, राइट? आप तेंदुलकर के एग्जाम्पल ले तो क्रिकेट के अलावा उनके लाइफ में बाकी सब सेकंड थर्ड फोर्थ प्रायोरिटी हो गया like family life taken care by the wife, had to be taken care of the wife, and admittedly so by Tendulkar. सचिन तेंदुलकर खुद इंटरव्यूज में कह चुके हैं कि बिकॉज मेरे वाइफ ने, अंजलि तेंदुलकर ने, अपना पूरा प्रोफेशनल करियर बाजू में रख के फैमिली को प्रायोरिटाइज किया, इसीलिए मैं अपने क्रिकेट के ऊपर बहुत अच्छे से ध्यान दे पाया और उसको बहुत फोकस के साथ आगे लेके जा पाया. तो ही गॉट दैट सपोर्ट. बट फॉर हिम individually everything else was a second third priority. For him cricket was the thing, and the family and people around him aligned and helped him and supported him to carry that focus as the number one priority. For him cricket was it, life, that's it, right? That was it, right? So that is, by कहते हैं ना, by default they are in line with कर्म योगा. कर्म योगा है क्या? एसेंशियली कर्म करते रहो, फल की आशा मत करो. कर्म के लिए अपने स्वधर्म के लिए और अपने पर्पस के लिए, आपने जो अपने आप के लिए एक पर्टिकुलर जो भी पर्पस बनाया होगा, उसके लिए बाकी सारी चीज़ों को सेकंड थर्ड प्रायोरिटी में डाल दो और बस एक चीज़ को लेके आगे चलते रहो, राइट? सुख हो, दुख हो, सक्सेस हो, फेलियर हो, आप अपना काम करते रहें. वेदर यू हिट सेंचुरीज और वेदर यू हैव डक्स इन अ रो, मैं अपना क्रिकेट का गेम ठीक करते रहूँगा, मैं अपना बैटिंग का गेम अच्छा करते रहूँगा, राइट? एंड people like Tendulkar are examples of that, right? They have made their purpose the end and all and end of it, right? So वो ऐसे लोग होते हैं कि जिनको बचपन से पता होता है, तो ये उनके लिए बहुत आसान हो जाता है कि they have a purpose and hence everything else, the choices become very easy कि यार यही करना है, तो बाकी तो not important, let me focus on this. What if आपके पास में बचपन से ऐसे कोई पर्पस नहीं है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल मी, राइट, एज ए सेड, मेरे को बचपन से आइडिया नहीं था मुझे करना क्या है. I was good in a few things, I was not good in many things, and so I didn't know as a child what I should do, right? And then now people like me कि जिनको नहीं है पर्पस, क्लैरिटी, right? Now what do? Should they cry कि यार नहीं है पर्पस, मैं क्या करूँ? No, not at all. Then there are 3 other options for them. What are the 3 other options? Depending again on your personality type, right? So for example me, if I start with my own self and just see, आप इसमें कहाँ फिट करते हो? Are you someone कि जिसका बचपन से क्लैरिटी है कि यही करना है लाइफ में? Is that so? Then probably you can by default start working on the karma yoga, and kind of you are, because they're naturally aligned to that. अगर आप नहीं हैं, आपके पास में कोई पर्पस नहीं है, अभी भी क्लैरिटी नहीं है पर्पस को लेके, then what you can do? Then you can figure out कि आप कौन से अलग पर्सनैलिटी टाइप के, क्या आप मेरे जैसे वो पर्सन है कि जिसका हर चीज़ जो है वो बहुत रैशनल, लॉजिक, intellectual pursuit से आगे जाता है. For me everything has to be questioned, everything has to be justified, there has to be a rational reason why either I'm doing something or not doing something. For me everything has to have a cause and effect, and there has to be some sense of intellectual understanding, extremely curious about why something is something like that, why somebody did something like this and that and all that. So when you have so many questions, when you're intellectually triggered and motivated, जब आपको हर चीज़ को एनालाइज करने का एक बहुत नेचुरल सा आपके अंदर एक ट्रेट है, हाउ यू कैन यूज़ इट, यू कैन. अब एक तो हो सकता है कि आप वो पैरालिसिस बाय एनालिसिस वाले मोड में चले जाए कि हर चीज़ को सोचते बैठे इतना अननेसरली कि आजू बाजू के लोगों को तकलीफ होने लगे. डिसीजंस में आप 2 साल लगाते जो कि 2 महीने में 2 दिन में होने चाहिए, राइट? दैट्स नॉट द डिस्क्रिमिनेशन दैट इज मेंट हियर. When I say discrimination as part of Dnyan Yog is the path of knowledge, path of curiosity, path of seeking, asking and seeking answers, for questions around you, right? So it doesn't mean कि हर चीज़ को randomly question करो. उन्होंने बहुत specifically कहा है कि ज्ञान योग का first step is that आप अपने आजू बाजू में जो भी experiences आपको आ रहे हैं उनको आप discriminate करो in terms of whether it's a permanent experience or it's a temporary, changing, transitory experience. What does this mean? It means कि अगर आपको कोई सक्सेस मिला है, आप डिस्क्रिमिनेट करो और एनालाइज करो कि ये सक्सेस शॉर्ट टर्म है, लॉन्ग टर्म है. अभी मैं खुश हूँ, क्या मैं एम आई गोइंग टू बी हैप्पी बिकॉज ऑफ वट एवर आई एम हैप्पी, कि मेरे को कार मिल गई मैं खुश हूँ. एम आई हैप्पी बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कार, तो कार अगर कल चोरी हो जाएगी तो क्या मैं दुखी हो जाऊँगा? या कार मेरे पास नहीं रही तो मैं क्या दुखी हो जाऊँगा? आई एम हैप्पी बिकॉज ऑफ दिस जॉब, वॉट इफ आई डोंट हैव दिस जॉब, वेयर एम आई गोइंग टू बी अनहैप्पी? So evaluating whatever you are experiencing in terms of whether that experience is a long term experience or a short term experience. कोई भी डिज़ायर्स आपके अंदर आ रहे हैं, वो डिज़ायर्स जो भी आपको करवाने का कह रहे हैं, जो भी आपसे करवाना चाह रहे हैं, वो जो भी चीज़ आप करोगे वो किसके लिए? वो शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए, लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए, परमानेंस के लिए है, शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए, टेम्पररी के लिए, राइट? एंड व्हेन यू स्टार्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेटिंग दीज थिंग्स, राइट, ऑटोमेटिकली क्या होता है? ऑटोमेटिकली यू स्टार्ट facing things in a much more calmer and quieter manner. क्यों? Because let's say अगर आपको if you get failure, you know it's temporary. ऐसे थोड़ी है कि अगर आप फेल हुए तो अगले 10 साल तक फेलियर रहोगे. ठीक है, फेल हो गए, यू स्टार्ट लर्निंग फ्रॉम इट, यू एनालाइज व्हाई डिड आई फेल, मैं क्यों फेल हुआ, मैंने कहाँ गलतियाँ की, मैं और क्या अच्छा कर सकता था, ओके लेट मी इंप्रूव ऑन दिस एंड ट्राई अगेन. Then you will try again and you will succeed next time, right? So automatically you will rather than getting depressed and dejected ki why did I fail, you will start analyzing and figure out, okay, what can I learn from it, what can I improve on, let me work on it, and then probably you will succeed the next time you try, right? So अपने आप जो equanimity की बात हमने अब तक के sessions में पढ़ी है, सीखी है, वो आ जाएगी. Right, the moment you focus on discrimination in this particular format, permanent versus temporary, you will automatically gain specific virtues in your life, right? What are these virtues? एक होगा mind control, समा जिसे कहते हैं. ये समा क्या है, mind control क्या है कि because you are analyzing, हर चीज़ को आप analyze कर रहे हो, you are एक ठहराव के साथ में, जिसे कहते हैं ना कि it's not, you are not being instinctive and impulsive. Whatever comes to your mind, you are like fine, चलो I am now triggered and induced to do a certain thing. Let me wait and see. Let me analyze and see, is it the right thing to do? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Right? And because you analyze, you are automatically controlling your mind, because your mind is not controlling anymore. Mind will tell you 10 things to do, but you will choose only 1 or 2 things out of them, right? Because you are analyzing it. So mind control अपने आप आ गया. दमा या दम जिसे कहते हैं कि सेंस कंट्रोल कब आएगा? सेंस कंट्रोल आएगा बिकॉज नाउ जस्ट बिकॉज सडनली देर इज लवली स्मेल आउट देयर, कोई केक बना रहा है, कोई कुकी बना रहा है, एंड यू आर लाइक कि नहीं अब मुझे कुकी खानी है, यू विल एनालाइज, नो इज इट गुड फॉर माई हेल्थ, आई हैव ऑलरेडी डिसाइड आई हैव टू लूज 10 kgs, so I'll not eat it, right? There is a control, there is a sense of control there. Your sense will not dictate what you are supposed to do, your analysis will dictate whether you should act on that sense or not, right? So अपने आप sense control आ गया. उपरति क्या है? उपरति is the right focus. Because you are analyzing, you know your priorities as well. आपको पता चलेगा at that particular point of time, because you are analyzing, you would know, okay, what is my priority, this or that, and you will also know, okay, if I'm going to want something, I'll have to let go of something. You have that understanding of sacrifice. आपको अपने आप पता चलेगा cost versus benefit. If I want benefit, there will be a cost. And because you have analyzed it, you will be okay with that, right? So अपने आप एक sense of priority आएगी, right focus आएगा, and तितिक्षा आएगा because you're okay with the costs. Because कि अगर एक्सरसाइज के बाद मुझे फिटनेस मिलेगी, मुझे अच्छा बॉडी टाइप मिलेगा, आई बी एबल टू बी हैविंग आई गेट मोर स्टेमिना और वॉट एवर, आई लुक गुड, आई लुक बेटर, आई लूज वेट, तो उसके लिए मुझे मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, उसके लिए मेरे बॉडी को पेन होगा, आधा 1 घंटा जो भी मैं तकलीफ करूँगा, आई हैव टू स्वेट इट आउट, राइट? एंड यू विल बी ओके विद दैट कॉस्ट, राइट? अब जब आप कोई सीखते हो, साइकिल आप सीखने लगते हो, तो आप कुछ दिन तो गिरते भी तो हो, राइट? देयर आर ब्रूजेस ऑन योर बॉडी व्हेन यू आर लर्निंग टू run the bicycle, and eventually you are an expert, right? But through the process, and through that process you're okay, because ultimately you want to be able to run the bicycle, right? So अगर 1-2 बार गिरते भी हो तो you are okay with that. So this titiksha, that forbearance, this ability to patiently bear the consequences of your actions will come through, right? And then there will be shraddha is faith in your own abilities, because those are not blindly assumed abilities. It's not that आप randomly assume करो कि यार मैं तो दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा सिंगर हूँ. You have analyzed yourself and you have realized कि चलो, am I a better singer or not? Can I be a better singer or not? Do I have it in me to be a better singer or not? And what are the things I need to do to be a better singer? And am I acting on it? Am I putting my efforts on it? And hence, you will have faith कि चलो, I have all of it. These are the things I have to improve on. These are the things that I'm doing. So if not today, tomorrow I'll get there, right? The faith will come. And because the faith will come, because the forbearance is there, because the right focus is there, because you are in control of your mind and senses, you will have a sense of satisfaction, because you're always on an action mode, right? You're not troubled by the dejections, and you're not anxious about the future, and you're not suddenly taken up by the successes. कुछ अच्छा हो गया तो आप उसमें खो नहीं रहे हो, कुछ बुरा हो रहा है तो उसकी वजह से आप इतने दुखी नहीं हो रहे हो कि सब कुछ भूल जाओ. यू आर ऑलवेज फोकस. तो एक अपने आप एक सेंस ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन आ जाएगा. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दिस, slowly and steadily you will automatically seek a much larger purpose from your life, because you are in that mindset of intellectual pursuit of rational justifications for every action, for all that's happening to you. अगर मेरे को कोई छोड़ के भी जा रहा है, अगर मेरे को कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन गलत तरीके से मेरे साथ रिएक्ट करिए, आई विल एनालाइज दिस, आई विल नॉट गेट बॉग डाउन बाय दैट, आई विल जस्ट एनालाइज ऐसा क्यों हुआ, मेरी गलती से हुआ तो फिर आई नीड टू चेंज, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की गलती से हुआ तो मुझे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को छोड़ के जाना है, आई नीड टू फिगर आउट अ बेटर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, राइट. सो फॉर एवरीथिंग यू विल हैव अ सेंस ऑफ पर्पस एंड देन you will slowly realize ki what is this challenge of being happy if I get the right organization, not happy if I don't get the right organization. Is organization that important, right? Or what I'm doing, but that is important. Slowly and steadily your analysis itself will take you to this larger purpose in your life, right? And that is when the motivation and the faith will come in automatically, right? That's the path of knowledge. There are much more deeper aspects to that. I have just introduced you to the concept of path of knowledge, just so that you can decide for yourself ki, am I this person, am I a person who can follow this path to progress, this path of knowledge to progress, am I this person who can pursue discrimination, stoicism, these 6 virtues and mokshatva, or focus on a larger perspective. Can I have that approach to life? Am I aligned to that approach? क्या मैं ऐसा बंदा हूँ या बंदी हूँ कि जो ये चीज़ कर सकता है, करने में I'll feel aligned. So this is only for your analysis. There will be deeper introductions and detailing which you'll have to read, study. Nothing comes easy, right? But one aspect is this. अगर आप कर्मयोगी भी नहीं हो, आपके पास में कोई फोकस भी नहीं है, आपके पास में कोई ऐसा कोई एक्सट्रीम क्यूरियोसिटी या एनालिसिस का माइंडसेट नहीं है, तो आप न ज्ञान योग के हो न कर्म योग के हो, देन व्हाट इज एन ऑप्शन फॉर यू? देन यू हैव एन ऑप्शन ऑफ फेथ, सैल्वेशन बाय फेथ जिसे क्रिश्चियनिटी में कहते हैं, या भक्ति योग जिसे कहते हैं. तो दिस इज फॉर दोज पीपल हु कैन हैव a sense of overbearing faith on a deity, on an entity, on an individual, कि जिसको वो अपनी सारी लाइफ को सौंप दें. Who can kind of submit themselves to this larger entity, individual, or a deity. And there is absolute faith that helps them stride through their life, right? And there have been stalwarts. If you look at history, and especially महाराष्ट्र में अगर आप देखें तो संतों की तो एक बहुत बड़ी एक माला है हमारे यहाँ पे. whether it is ज्ञानेश्वर, संत तुकाराम, संत चोका मेला, there have been just नामदेव, एकनाथ, there have been so many, रामदास स्वामी, there have been just, I can just go on and on. ये तो एक स्टेट का हो गया. ऐसे तो हर एक स्टेट में there will be someone or the other who have been proponents of this bhakti movement, and आप अगर उनका लिटरेचर पढ़े, एंड दे हैव डन ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द सोसाइटी, उनका लिटरेचर अगर आप पढ़े, उनके पोएम्स अगर आप पढ़े, तो उन्होंने बहुत ही आसान तरीके से सिंपल वर्ड्स में उनके एक्सपीरियंसेस, उनके प्रिस्क्रिप्शंस, रिकमेंडेशंस डॉक्यूमेंट किए हैं कि जो उन सभी लोगों के लिए है कि जो उसी लेवल की भक्ति अपने लाइफ में उतार सकते हैं. एंड दैट भक्ति कैन बी टूवर्ड्स अ डीटी. जैसे संत तुकाराम जी के लिए विठल जो है उनके ऊपर की भक्ति थी. संत रामदास जो गए उनके लिए लॉर्ड राम वाज दैट डीटी जिसके लिए ही हैड सबमिटेड हिमसेल्फ टू दैट लॉर्ड राम. मीराबाई के लिए कृष्ण थे, राधा के लिए कृष्ण थे. हर एक के लिए there would have been someone to whom they would have submitted themselves, and there are many who submit to these saints now, right? अभी ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं कि जिनके लिए संत ज्ञानेश्वर है, जिनको वो अपनी पूरी लाइफ सबमिट कर देते हैं, right? So if you are somebody who can submit their entire life, who can be subservient, कि अपने लाइफ में जो भी कुछ हो रहा है, अच्छा बुरा एंड ऑल दैट, वो ये कर रहा होगा या अपने से करवा रहा होगा. अगर मैंने बहुत अच्छी कोई चीज़ कर ली तो ये मैंने नहीं की, किसी और ने करवा ली. द मॉडेस्टी कम्स इन, राइट? नाउ बिकॉज व्हाट you're not taking ownership of the success that's coming in, that's coming your way. You're saying that it's you attribute that success and the highs of your life to that individual or a deity who you are submitting yourself to. तो आप वो सक्सेस से बह तो नहीं जाओगे कभी भी, राइट? बिकॉज यू आर ऑलरेडी सेइंग इट्स नॉट मी, इट्स समबडी एल्स who's the reason for this success. और अगर आप फेल भी हो जाते हो, if you're failure as well, then you say कि there must be some learning that will come my way because of this failure. Because अगर मैं फेल हुआ हूँ मेरे इस डीटी के बावजूद, मेरे साथ ये डीटी है उसके बावजूद अगर मैं फेल हुआ हूँ, तो इसमें मेरे लिए कोई सीख ही होगी जो मैं कहीं तो कम पढ़ाऊँगा, मेरा भगवान कहीं कम नहीं पड़ा, मैं कम पड़ा, इसलिए अब लेट मी इम्प्रूव, मेरे भगवान को गाली मत दो, इसमें मेरी गलती होगी, मैं सुधरता हूँ. So you're taking ownership of your failures and you're not taking ownership of your success. You will be equanimous, isn't it? आप अगर अपने फेलियर्स का ओनरशिप ले रहे हो, भगवान को गाली नहीं दे रहे हो, और आपके सक्सेस में भगवान को बोल रहे हो कि आप ये सब आप ही की वजह से हो रहा है, मेरा तो इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है. यू हैव टू, एंड दिस इज वेरी नेचुरल. ये फोर्स्ड नहीं है, ये कोई नाटक नहीं है, कोई ड्रामा नहीं है. इट इज़ नॉट दैट दे आर सेइंग दिस एंड डूइंग दिस बिकॉज दे आर फॉलोइंग सर्टन रूल और प्रैक्टिस की, ऐसा कहना पड़ता है, ऐसा करना पड़ता है. मन में वो फीलिंग नहीं है, वो वही फील करते हैं वेरी इंटरनली, बहुत अंदर बाहर से उनको ये फीलिंग आती है कि अगर मुझे सक्सेस मिल रही है तो ये तो भगवान ने दी है, और अगर मुझे फेलियर आ रहा है तो मेरी कोई कमी रह गई होगी, मेरी ही भक्ति में कोई कमी रह गई होगी, आई नीड टू इम्प्रूव ऑन दैट, राइट. ये इतना अंदर से उनको फील होता है कि अपने आप दे आर इक्वानिमस, अपने आप दे आर फोकस्ड ऑन द एफर्ट, राइट. अगर आप देखें तो जो सही में भक्त हैं, वो भक्त इसके लिए नहीं है कि उनको कोई कोई आउटकम मिलेगा, वो भक्त इसके लिए कि उनको बस वो प्रे करने में ही खुशी मिलती है. अगर दिन भर वो बस उस भगवान का नाम ले तो उस नाम लेने में उनको खुशी मिलती है. वो इसके लिए नहीं कि उनको कोई स्वर्ग मिले या उनको कोई कहाँ से पैसे मिले या कुछ उनको कोई नाम मिले. दे डू इट बिकॉज दे लव टू डू इट. तो अपने आप वो जो एक कर्म के प्रति आस्था है और फल के प्रति एक निराशा का भाव है कि आई एम नॉट इन दिस फॉर आउटकम, आई एम हियर फॉर द वर्क दैट आई डू, वो अपने आप आ गया है बिकॉज वो भक्ति ही है जो सब करवा रही है, राइट. सो भक्ति योग इज द सिंपलेस्ट ऑफ फॉर्म, एंड माइंड यू आई एम सेइंग सिंपलेस्ट, मैं कह रहा हूँ ये सबसे ही सरल सा चीज़ है, बट सबसे डिफ़िकल्ट है. डिफ़िकल्ट इसके लिए है कि ये तभी होगा जब आपके मन में वो भक्ति है. अगर आपके मन में ही वो भक्ति नहीं है तो कोई ज़बरदस्ती आपको कोई भक्त नहीं बना सकता. कोई आपको अंदर से कि 4 चीज़ें हैं ये करो तो भक्त बन जाओगे, ऐसा कहीं नहीं हो. ये आपको अंदर से वो फीलिंग आनी चाहिए. जब वो फीलिंग आएगी तो देन it has to be natural basically, right. And then you look at it, the literature, the scriptures that they have written. आप जब देखोगे तो you will see that these people have gone through a transition through 3 distinct stages. The first stage is कि they talk to the deity as if the deity is the third person. That for example अगर वो रामदास जी हैं तो वो राम के बारे में बात करेंगे as if कि राम is the third person individual or the deity who he is submitting himself to. तुकाराम है तो वो विठल के बारे में इस तरह से बात करेंगे. And then as their devotion grows, as their bhakti grows, they start talking to those deities as if they see them, as if कि रामदास स्वामी को राम सामने दिख रहे हैं, as if तुकाराम को वो विठल सामने दिख रहा है, और वो उनसे इस तरह से बात करे जैसे कि वो दोस्त हो, जैसे कि वो सखा हो, जैसे कि वो एक दूसरे के आमने सामने हो. They feel the presence of the deity around them, in front of them, in the people that they meet, right. इतना वो एक डिवोशन बढ़ता है कि then it becomes I am yours rather than I am his. You see, the third person becomes second person now, and that is what we call from tasaiva aham, that is I am his. You graduate to become tavaiva aham, I am yours, and then eventually you reach a state where you feel ki I am the Lord, right. Jesus Christ at his pinnacle, what did he used to say? He used to say I am the son of God, मैं उन्हीं का बेटा हूँ, right. And that is when there was this huge challenge around him. People used to say how dare you call yourself son of God, right. But he felt internally कि यार मैं हूँ, I am the son of God, right. And the God talks to me, right. And people around him didn't understand how is it possible, right. So these are the people who by default internally they have this sense of faith and devotion towards that particular deity, and they gradually rise to through those stages where initially it's a third person devotion, then there's a second person devotion, and then there is this sense of I am you, that मैं ही वो हूँ, तुम ही मैं हूँ, there is no difference between us, right. अब ऐसे इसमें when such a deep rooted devotion and a sense of belonging comes in, राइट. तो आप अपने आप को अपने आजू बाजू के चीज़ों से दूर नहीं कर पाओगे, इन द सेंस आप किसी और से क्या ही कुछ गलत करोगे. हाउ यू विल बी नॉन वायलेंट टूवर्ड्स any entity around you when you see your Lord or your deity or your God in that entity. आप अगर आपके सामने वाले के अंदर भी वही डिविनिटी देखते हो तो आप उसके साथ कुछ गलत कैसे कर पाओगे, right? How when for you everything else is subservient, everything else is diminutive, but the divinity of that deity, whether will you be, so much in for the wealth, for accumulation, for ambition, none of it would matter to you, right? So bhakti agar aapka, ek dhacha hai, if by default you feel that you have that sense of devotion to a particular deity, a particular faith, a particular book, a particular individual, a particular saint, whoever it might be, right? If you feel that you have that sense of utmost faith towards that deity, then this is your path, right? And it's the simplest of path, because there's nothing else to do but to be devoted, to be devoted to that deity fully, right? But my only recommendation, or or a prescription, or a rider, or a disclaimer here is that Bhakti Yog is not as simple as be devoted to someone, right? You can't be blindly devoted to someone. It's very important, because आजकल बाहर आजू बाजू में हम इतने देखते हैं, there are so many imposters out there who call themselves gurus, who calls themselves the divine people, realized souls or whatnot. They call themselves the realized souls in whichever way you may want to call them. They call themselves guru, for example, right? And they talk a very scientific language, they talk a very modern language. इंग्लिश में बात करेंगे, साइंस की बात करेंगे, और आपको लगेगा कि यार ये तो साइंस की बात करते हैं, तो ये तो अच्छे होंगे, ये तो सही होंगे, right? My only submission and humble submission is, without disrespecting anybody and their faith and their beliefs, is that don't be blind towards your devotion, because the moment you devote yourself, यू आर गिविंग योर रिमोट कंट्रोल टू समबडी एल्स. आप अपने लाइफ का रिमोट कंट्रोल किसी और को दे रहे हैं. आप अपने लाइफ में जो भी कुछ होगा, जो भी कुछ अचीव करोगे, आप उस सब का रिमोट कंट्रोल किसी और को दे रहे हैं. तो फिर बी कॉशियस अबाउट हु यू आर गिविंग दिस रिमोट कंट्रोल टू, राइट? एंड अगर आप पूरा संत वांग में अगर आप पूरा पढ़ लें, पूरा संत वांग में, स्पेशली तुकाराम हो गए, ज्ञानेश्वरी हो गई, चोखा मेला हो गया, कोई भी, इन्होंने किसी आदमी को अपना डिवोशन नहीं दिया है. It has always been some deity. It's an inhuman, or divine deity, and that's why, the idol worship came into being, because the idol is not going to tell you what to wear, what to wear, what to speak, what to not to speak, and all that, right? It's the devotion in that eternal being, and you name it whatever. You may call it Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Kali, Durga, Ganpati, Shiva, whatever you may want to call it, right? But divinity, the faith or devotion to this divinity, this deity, Allah, God, or whoever, that's a part and parcel of the bhakti movement. But if you are going to be devoted to a human being, if it's going to be a living being, just be cautious about that faith, right? And one example I'll quote here is Ramakrishna Paramhans was one of the practitioners of this bhakti movement, right? He himself was a bhakt, and an extreme and a huge example of what bhakti can achieve for one's own soul salvation and whatnot, right? और उनका स्टूडेंट कौन था? उनका स्टूडेंट थे विवेकानंद जी. And do you feel Vivekanand ji would be somebody who will blindly follow an individual? What was the first question that he asked Ramakrishna Paramhans? क्या आपने भगवान देखा है? अगर आपने भगवान देखा है तब हम बात कर सकते हैं, तब तक हम बातें करेंगे. आप मुझे अगर भगवान दिखा सकते हो तब हम बात करते हैं. If you have you seen God, and if you have seen God, and if you can show me God, then okay, let's talk, right? So choosing the person, evaluating the person, testing the person, जैसे गुरु शिष्य को टेस्ट करता है, a teacher analyzes whether the student is the right student or not. The student also analyzes whether the teacher is the right teacher or not, right? And then you can be devoted, right? So I'll just add a disclaimer here that if you are going to be devoted to an individual, a living being specifically, then my request is to not be too blind about that choice, that decision. Be extremely careful and test it out whether it's the right thing to do or not. And as we move along, we'll actually discuss the traits of the realized human soul as well, so that you will get to know whether does that individual qualify for these traits or not? If he does, then probably you are in the safe hands, right? So we'll get to that. But okay, so come the long story short, if this is the kind of person you are, then Bhakti Yog is for you, and it's very simple, as I said, right? Simple but not easy, right? And there are just these three stages. The more and more devoted you are, the more and more progress you make, right? What if you're not somebody with purpose? What if you're not somebody who has this extreme curiosity and quest for knowledge, and you're not highly analytical, rational, logical about the decisions, about the choices, right? And you're not a man of faith as well, man or woman of faith as well, right? तो फिर आप क्या करोगे? Then there is this stream of action, I would say, and not action, because action is karma yoga. Let's put it a prescriptive methodology. Prescriptive methodology, in the sense, it's a methodology which consists of specific rules, specific steps, specific processes, specific disciplines that you have to kind of go through in a particular fashion, so that you reach there. And there are certain aspects of this. I'll just introduce you to that concept. There are certain things that first, जो कहते हैं कि आप राजयोग अगर करना चाहते हो, तो राजयोग करने के पहले आपको कुछ चीज़ें, you will have to be a qualified individual to be able to do राजयोग. तो qualification के लिए ही foundationally you will have to prepare yourself for that, right? So what are those preparatory foundational aspects? So first is yamas and niyamas. Yamas is like ahimsa, that non-violence. And when I say non-violence is not just towards an individual, towards another human being. Non-violence in general, non-violence in terms of intent, words and action, all three, right? कि आप action में तो non-violent हो ही, आप words में भी non-violent हो, आप सामने को words से भी तकलीफ नहीं दे रहे हो, और intentionally also you are non-violent, आपके दिल में भी किसी और के लिए कुछ बुरा नहीं है, right? Non-violence, ahimsa, doesn't mean that in self-defense you won't be able to fight for your own safety or fight for your own health, or you'll not be able to violently act to protect yourself, right? Non-violence means by default, given a situation, you won't mean anything negative or bad or troublesome for anybody else, right? By default, by word, by intent, by action, you would not want to trouble anybody else, right? So that's non-violence. Satya, truthfulness in terms of, not only in terms of your speech, but also in terms of action and pursuit, right? Pursuit of truth. You will not only pursue truth, but also you will stand by truth, you will act on truth, you will speak the truth, right? And you will prioritize truth over anything else, even if it means, वो कहते हैं ना कि अगर सामने वाला मुझे बोल रहा है कि तूने पेंटिंग अच्छी की है तो मुझे आनंद मिल रहा है, लेकिन वो बोल रहा है कि यार ये 4 चीज़ें तूने गलत की है तो मुझे दुख हो रहा है, राइट? इफ़ ही इज टेलिंग द ट्रूथ, you would rather be happy about it, right? You will rather feel कि yes, finally he told me the right thing, I'm happy, I got something to learn out of it, right? So सत्य का, truthfulness का हर तरीके से, हर आयाम से, every dimension of truth is to be practiced, right? Asteya, not stealing, right? Not stealing is not only in terms of the actual act of stealing कि किसी और की चीज़ का लेना. It could be as simple as I'll not copy somebody else's work. Copy in the sense without reference, without referencing the individual, the context, the idea, the ownership, right? So non-stealing is beyond the object itself. Non-stealing is also from a perspective of I'll not want to be somebody else. I would be the original, I would be the individual that I am, right? I wouldn't want the life of somebody else, I wouldn't want the choices somebody else has made as it is. I'll not copy that, I'll rather choose my it may be the same as somebody else, but because it had to be that way, it happened that way, right? Not because I copied somebody blindly as well. So non-stealing. Brahmacharya doesn't mean abstaining from sex, right? We have discussed this in the past sessions. Brahmacharya means, charya means acting on, and Brahma means the ultimate truth. So acting on ultimate truth day in, day out, every second of your life is Brahmacharya, right? What does it mean in the context of purpose? If it means that if you have one priority purpose at a particular point of time, everything else is subservient to it, right? तो अगर मैं if cricket is my passion, if I want to be the best cricketer in the world, for me everything else is non-material. For me everything else is secondary, tertiary, for fourth priority, fifth priority, whatever, but not the first priority for sure. Everything else, if it is between cricket and something else, I'll always choose cricket, come what may, right? So this is brahmacharya, and then that is commitment to one at the cost of everything else. And aparigraha, which is non-avarice or non-possessiveness. I'll not be somebody who will hold some things. I'll be non-materialist, I'll be minimalist, right? तो ये हो गए यमाज. ये यमाज अपने आप अपने लाइफ को बहुत सिंपल कर देते हैं. इफ़ यू आर फॉलोइंग दीज यमाज, your life will become automatically simple in terms of your choices would not be as complicated or as tough, because you're living a life which is not going to bring you into a situation where you will have troubles. और इसका सिंपल सा एग्जाम्पल है कि अगर आपने किसी के साथ कुछ बुरा किया भी नहीं है तो आपको कोई वरी नहीं होगी कि इसका मुझे इम्पैक्ट क्या होने वाला है, क्या वो आके मुझे फिर से मारने वाला है, क्या आके मुझे फिर बोल देगा, क्या उसने अगर मेरे बारे में किसी को बता दिया तो क्या होगा. यू विल ऑलवेज बी ट्रूथफुल. इफ यू हैव कमिटेड समथिंग रॉन्ग, यू विल एक्सेप्ट इट एंड से कि यस आई डिड इट रॉन्ग एंड आई एम सॉरी फॉर इट, आई एम रेडी टू बेयर द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस फॉर इट, एंड नाउ आई एम नॉट द सेम पर्सन एनी मोर, राइट? सो द थिंग्स बिकम लाइट, things become very easy, right? And simple for you. Niyamas, that is purity of speech, mind and body, which is called as shauch. Contentment, that you'll be happy in whatever you have, you'll not be after certain things. There's automatically the desire for more and more wouldn't come in your mind, because you're content with whatever you have. The tapas, because this Raj Yoga is all about following certain practices in a particular format, in a particular way, and without discipline and commitment it won't come in, right? So you will be geared to be disciplined. Then you will always find time for self reflection. You will always figure out what more can I do, what more can I improve on, right? And then Ishwar Pranidhan, that is the contemplation of ultimate reality, that every now and then you will feel that whatever I'm doing right now, I'm doing it because this is my next plan of this is a part of my duty, this is what I'm here for. But my life is something, meaning is something more, I'm here for something more. I'll always try and look for the bigger meaning in life, right? And then if you follow these things, there are certain ways in which you can move through the phases of dharana, dhyan and samadhi, which is like concentration, meditation and total self collectedness, right? There is a huge literature out there about Raj Yoga. Vivekananda has written a very specific book on Raj Yoga. It's extremely insightful if you are the person of this archetype, that you can follow a particular process without questioning it, and then based on whether you get benefit out of it or not, then you decide whether it is the right thing or not. But you'll rather follow it step by step as it is, right? If you're somebody who basically, if you're a follower, if you follow a certain thing diligently without deviations, this is the right thing for you, right? And dharana is basically concentrating on an object, right? Because we discussed in the first session, if you remember, there was this question that how can I do nothing, right? So meditation doesn't mean doing nothing. Meditation starts when the process in itself is such that आप अपने थॉट्स को कैसे रोक लोगे, राइट? अवर माइंड इज सच दैट इट इज एटर्नली एक्टिव. 50 और 1000 दिमाग में थॉट्स आ रहे थे, कभी पास्ट के कभी फ्यूचर के, राइट? सो द फर्स्ट एंड सिंपल थिंग टू डू इज टू कॉन्सेंट्रेट ऑन समथिंग, राइट? सो इट कुड बी ऑन अ फ्लेम, it could be on a photograph, it could be on an image, it could be on a swastik, it could be on a mantra, it could be multiple tools that you can use to help you focus, right? So it's not the tool itself that is the key here. It is the leveraging of the tool to focus. The focus is the key. The moment you're able to focus, automatically you'll see that your mind gets conditioned to be concentrated in terms of focus, and then you can actually meditation is when you are not leveraging the external tool for focus, but rather you are leveraging an internal focus, which is like now you can close your eyes rather than focus your eyes on a particular tool or an object. Now you can close your eyes and then try and focus on your breath, or on the sheer the tip of the nose, as we discussed in the last. It will become easier if you have done through the dharana. And the last piece is when you reach the ultimate samadhi, where you have drawn in all your senses, and you are focused internally. It's a state which of course I have not experienced, so I'll not be able to describe, but whatever I've read, it's a state wherein you will experience or you will feel that you're content in your own self, that there is no external trigger or motivation anymore, right? That the senses are drawn in, that your eyes are not after anything outside, that your ears are not anything focused on anything outside, that you're that you're not thinking about anything to taste, or there's no sense of I want to eat this, I want to eat that, right? You're absolutely drawn inward, right? And you're self contented, right? You'll feel that I'm complete as it is. I don't need anything else to complete myself, right? And this feeling of oneness with that supreme consciousness that reflects in you as your soul, right? We'll get to that in the next few slides, but that's the last stage, of this Raj Yoga, right? So there are 4 distinct streams: Karma Yog, Bhakti Yog, Dnyan Yog, Raj Yog, and based on what kind of a person you are, you can figure out which is the right path for you. And by the way, as Krishna has said, among thousands of men, there are people who are pursuing perfection, there are people who have perfected a particular technique or whatever, and now they are seeking me, and there are those people who have now realized that I exist in them, right? So there are different stages of evolution. So there is no high and low here, there is no rank 1, rank 2 here, there is no I am better than you or I am not better than you. It is all that each and every one of us, whether we know it or not, are on a particular journey. Mere Pitaji, my father, often tells me that being non-judgmental is extremely easy when you know that they're coming at it from a different stage of maturity, right? If somebody calls you by some wrong name, if somebody assumes certain incorrect things about you, if somebody is not able to understand you right, rather than you judging them on that, you can always figure out that, hey, probably he's yet to know, he's probably yet to realize, probably is in different stage of maturity, and automatically you'll be non-judgmental, right? So that's what Krishna is saying when he means that there are different type of people, each of them in a different stage, right? And there are different type of people, and for whom each of them different archetypes would have a meaning. And then, by the way, one of the interesting things is, the moment you pursue either of the 3, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga or Dnyan Yoga, the ultimate outcome of it will be that you will get into Karma Yoga on your own, right? So even if you are not by default as a child having any purpose, and you are not by default get into Karma Yoga, eventually you'll get it in, because your purpose will become the faith itself in Bhakti Yoga, the pursuit of knowledge itself in Dnyan Yoga, and the perfection of your practice in Raj Yoga. That itself will become your purpose, and then you will be subservient to that purpose, and you will pursue that purpose in terms of actions without worrying about the outcomes, and Karma Yoga will automatically become the way of life for you, right? So Karma Yoga, by the way, is the final stage anyways. Whether you start with it or not, even if you start with Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga or Dnyan Yoga, you'll end up in Bhakti Yoga, in Karma Yoga eventually, right? This is the essence of the first slide. Now, the next key thing is, this is what will help you be motivated in the sense that in your life, for you to be motivated for the larger scheme of things, be not worried about the small things that happen to you, right? Life there will be some personal challenges, professional challenges here and there, highs and lows, closest people leaving you for some reason or the other. There will be issues, there will be problems. Now, what is it that will motivate you to think of the larger scheme of things, to think of the larger purpose, right? That is what we studied in the previous slide, that there are 4 archetypes, and based on the archetypes, you can pursue any of those 4 archetypes. The purpose itself, which could be Karma Yoga, faith, Bhakti Yoga, Dnyan Yoga, and then, perfection in practice, which could be Raj Yoga, which will kind of sort out the challenge of motivation for a transformation, right? And ये तो हो गया बड़ा description from a spiritual angle. From a practical, professional, personal angle, it would be that whatever transformation you're seeking, the motivation would come from either you're doing it because you want some outcome from it, you want some actionable progression because of it. कि आप अगर exercise करना चाहते हो तो आप you want to be fit. Why do you want to be fit? You want to be fit because you want to participate in a particular competition, because you want to be the better dancer, because you want to be a better athlete, and that's why you being fit will be important, because you are an actor and for you being in a good shape is important, or because you want to date somebody, and for that you feel that you being fit will be better off. hundreds of things, right? And all of that is a sense of action as the focus, right? It could be because you want to you know you pursue it because of curiosity, in terms of, okay, whether I do this exercise, whether I'll be able to do this or not. If I do these kind of exercises, will that help me be more fit, based on your archetype, right? If you are a curious person, you will study hundreds of things, whether Zumba will help me, whether gymming will help me, whether lightweight training will help me, whether heavyweight training will help me, what will help me, right? All of that you will be curiously studying through and analyzing and figuring out. If you are a man of faith or woman of faith, you will do it because there's an instructor, a gym instructor that you believe in, and then you will do whatever it takes, for that person to be happy. You will say, if the gym instructor is telling me, I'd rather do it. Or you're a person that, I saw 18-step journey towards weight loss, and I'll follow all the 18 steps, and that helps me, right? That's it. These are the motivations, right? If you, based on your archetype, what kind of journey you can choose. But still, the commitment is a question. The faith is a question. When does the faith come in, right? Now there are two approaches to it. One is an external faith as a trigger. External faith is then when something in the lines of Bhakti Yog, that the faith comes in from some external trigger. Your mother believes that you will be able to do it, that's why you believe it, you will be able to do it. Your father believes, that's why you do it. Your friends believe, that's why you do it. Your teachers believe, that's why you do it. Your boss believes, that's why you do it. Or there could be external stakeholders beyond this who are supporting you, your networked entities or whatnot, right? Your coaches, guides. But what if I say that there's an internal faith in your inherent capabilities, and that's making you feel that yes, it will work out. Let me just commit to this action and it will pay eventually. The internal faith, like internal motivation or the faith in yourself, is the strongest. अगर आप इंटरव्यू में मुझे पूछे कि who will I choose, a person who's motivated by external factors like wealth, role, title, promotion, I'll be cognizant of it. I'll probably use it for incentivization and for triggering the person. But if I get a person who's motivated by work itself, I'll hire him straight away. Of course, if he's capable, but if he's motivated by the work itself, he'll say that, hey, I want this job because I love this job and I know I'll be able to contribute. This interests me for these reasons, and I know I'll be able to drive these outcomes because this is what my plan of action is. This is what I feel I'll be able to do it. And by the way, I love doing this, irrespective of the challenges I'll face. If somebody tells me that, I'll hire him, rather than somebody will say, I'm in it because I feel this will be a good step in the journey, this will be a good promotion in my career path, this will be a good role that I'm chasing at this point, this is a transition that I'm planning in terms of my salary or location or whatever. Beyond all these external factors, if somebody says I'm motivated internally, I'll hire him, right? So the internal motivation is the strongest because those people deliver 10 times better than the people who are motivated by external triggers. And that's quite a physical experience for all of us, to go through, right? ये internal faith कहाँ से आया? Do we have a formula for that? Can we get that in some way? Well, there's and again, the context is not any normal change. It's not a normal decision, right? It's a transformational change that we're discussing here, and for that, the faith has to be that much more bigger as well, right? So, इसीके Krishna is guiding us into a thought process that we are beyond our body, mind, and intellect. We are something bigger. We are something larger, right? And to make that point, Krishna is saying, earth, water, fire, air, ether, manas, buddhi and ego, thus my prakriti is divided eightfold, right? So he's saying my. When I say my, when Krishna is saying my, it means for any human being, for any and every human being, the physical body, the physical aspect of the existence is eightfold, which is like water, earth, air, fire, ether, pancha tattva, pancha mahabhuta, as we call it, in the Vedic context. But the biological equivalent, if I have to give you, the earth would denote the matter, that is the skin, the muscles, the organs, the bones, right, the ligaments that exist in our body, all the material aspect of the body. The water denotes the fluids of our body, right? The hormone secretions, the hormonal secretions, the blood, the bile, the acid in our stomach, and all that, right? The fire is basically the chemical process that would convert or break down the complex things into energy, right? The fire would denote the fire would denote the impulses, the neural impulses, the synaptic nodes, the electrical impulses in the synaptic nodes, right? Those things. The air would denote the air that we breathe, the oxygen that we need, the pranvayu as we call it, and ether would denote the processes that happen in our body in terms of excretory, circulatory, the neural processes, which kind of take our body forward in terms of sustenance and growth, right? So these are the 5 aspects of our physical body. And then the mind, intellect, and ego is called as antakaran. It is deliberately segregated, although brain is an organ and therefore reflected as in the earth part of the physical body. Mind, intellect, and ego is deliberately chalked out because those are mind, intellect, and ego are those part of your brain. Those are those sections of your brain. वो अपने brain के वो specific parts हैं कि जो एक स्पेसिफिक चीज़, एक स्पेसिफिक आइडेंटिटी हमको दे रहे हैं. माइंड इज दैट स्पेसिफिक पार्ट ऑफ दैट ब्रेन which helps us collect information from the senses and convert it into impulses, electrical impulses, right? Ki signals, whatever we hear from our ears, whatever we see through our eyes, whatever we sense through our skin and touch, whatever we taste through our tongue, all those sensory organs, they are giving us some inputs day in day out 24/7. और इसको process जो किया जा रहा है in terms of what do they mean, वो mind process करता है. Intellect जो है वो उसको analyze करता है. Intellect is that part of the brain which now analyzes, slices and dices the information that the mind collects, right? And kind of gives it meaning, right? It tells us that okay, this information that is coming, it's actually a tree and rather a lemon tree, or a mango tree or whatnot, right? And then the ego is something that helps us associate this information or insight with us. What does it mean to us? Okay, it's not just any other lemon tree. It's a lemon tree in front of my in front of my house. And by the way, I want lemons right now, right? So ego is something that associates the information, the meaning of it to oneself, right? These are the 3 specific aspects plus 5 of the matter, that is earth, water, air, fire, ether, which construct our physical body, right? The question is, this is a part of Prakriti, the nature, the physicality of our existence. Is this the complete existence? Krishna says no, right? Krishna says this is my lower Prakriti, the physical existence. But oh mighty armed Arjun, one know that my higher nature is another. It is the life principle by which this universe is sustained. That is, my higher nature. Both are my nature. Both construct me, right? But this that you see, the body, the physical body, which constitutes, which is constituted by the earth, water, air, fire, ether, the Pancha Mahabhuta, and the 3 mind, intellect, ego, the Antakarana. This is just a physical aspect. There is something beyond which I call is the Jeev or the life principle. And what does it mean? If I take you back to the example of the electric bulb, the tungsten filament, the vacuum, the glass, covering, and the node that connects to the socket, all of that is the physical body. But it's the electricity that goes in, and then fires the tungsten filament and gets me the light. That electricity is the Jeev or the life principle, right? So what is that electricity equivalent in our body? That is the question, right? We discussed that briefly in the earlier sessions. हमने पुराने सेशंस में इसको थोड़ा डिस्कस किया था कि जो हम कहते हैं कि बलून का एग्जांपल दिया था, इलेक्ट्रिक बल्ब का एग्जांपल दिया था कि the air outside is the same, but the moment it gets into the balloon we say that's the balloon, right? We name it as the air in the balloon, and now when the balloon bursts, the air goes back into the atmosphere. Now we cannot distinguish which was that air that got into this balloon, right? The same way, there is this supreme consciousness which is at the root of everything that exists outside, right? हम कहते हैं ना कि हर मैटर को अगर तोड़ा जाए, then there will be molecules behind the molecules, or what forms the molecules is atoms, what forms the atoms is protons, neutrons, electrons, what forms them is further deep dive. Now science has evolved to get us far more small parts of these, but if you go down to a level which can't be broken down any further, there must be something that constitutes it, and that thing is supreme consciousness or supreme entity, right? The immutable, as it is called, right? That it can't be broken down further, right? The unchanging, because that thing is the same. Now that forms certain particles, that then forms atoms, that then forms molecules, that then forms a particular object, right? And then that has a particular form and type, and then that can change, but at the core what exists is the same everywhere, right? And by the way, it's not just in the matter, it's in the energy, it's in the vacuum, it's everywhere, right? It is something that existed before the Big Bang happened, for example, and that is what exists in us as well. That supreme consciousness is that electricity equivalent in an electric bulb, that electricity equivalent in us, that is the Jeev Bhuta, right? And together with this Jeev Bhuta and this eightfold aspects of our body constitutes us, right? Now if I tell you that the whole question, that if we ask ourselves that what is this Jeev Bhuta, can I feel this, can I experience this, right? That will get me into a spiritual quest. If I ask that question, that what is it, what is this, right, that constitutes me, what is it that constitutes all that exists in the universe, where was the origin, what made us be where we are, right? If you ask those questions, that will be a scientific quest, of course, but that will be a spiritual quest as well, because now you're relating to your own existence, right? But if you relate it in terms of that, hey, I am something which is beyond this eightfold existence, right? I'm beyond my body, I'm beyond my mind, I'm beyond my senses, I'm beyond my intellect, I'm beyond my ego, right? I'm beyond all of this. I'm the Jeev Bhut, I'm the life principle. Now when you think of yourself that way, you will be able to dissociate with your body. आप अपने बॉडी को एक थर्ड पर्सन के पर्सपेक्टिव में देख पाओगे और बोल पाओगे कि मेरे बॉडी ने ये सहना चाहिए, मेरे बॉडी ने ये करना चाहिए, मेरे बॉडी मांग रही है लेकिन मैं अभी नहीं दूंगा, मेरे बॉडी मेरे को ये मांग रही है और मैं दूंगा, राइट? ये सारी चीज़ें आप में आ पाएगी, बिकॉज यू विल एसोशिएट योरसेल्फ विद समथिंग बियॉन्ड योर बॉडी, right? So I'll go back to a very simplistic example of exercise. Now we know that you have to do an exercise, right? And as you exercise, you will feel body ache and you will feel body pain. The next day that you have to exercise, you will be able to tell your body that, hey, yes, I am feeling the pain, but it is because I didn't exercise for so many years and I've started doing it now, and I'm okay with it. I'll bear the pain, right? Because this body is not me. Of course I'll feel pain, but that's fine. I am something bigger, I am something more, right? And that faith in our own existence, that we are something beyond this, will help us tide through, that commitment challenge, that thing that yes, there are failures, yes, there are challenges, yes, there are problems, that's fine, I'll be okay, because I am something beyond, I'm something more, right? So one is to have the quest, that what is it, right? Whether you have it or not, that's a different aspect, because that's a spiritual aspect, that's a spiritual quest. You may not have that as well, but the very fact that you, and that's common sense, right? That see, if you are and okay, let me ask you that question. What if I construct a body, right? I construct a body just like this, I copy paste it, right? Probably there's a 3D printer which kind of prints you as it is, right? Your brain, your wiring, your organs, your skin, all of it as it is, it just copy pastes you, right? Whether it will have the same life as you, right? Now people might question, hey, cloning तो हो गया, साइंस ने वो भी कर दिया है, साइंस ये भी कर देगी, साइंस शायद इस सवाल को पूछ लेगी, समझ लेगी कि what is this life principle. Science will probably get there, and I'm, as an atheist personally, I believe that science will figure that answer out eventually. right? I'm a firm believer of that, right? And I'm able to admit as well that science doesn't know today, but I'm very certain that science will eventually, right? I'm not a person who's the god of gaps, who believes in the god of gaps, right? God of gaps थोड़ा सा slightly lateral जाता हूँ, but god of gaps is it's a terminology used to denote that god which was taken over by science थ्रू द ईयर्स, राइट? आप अगर जानते हैं तो पुराने समय में जब साइंस इतना इवॉल्व नहीं हुआ था, तो जो रिलीजियस टीचर्स थे, जो रिलीजियस प्रीचर्स थे, वो कहते थे तुम अगर भगवान का अस्तित्व नहीं मानते हो तो बताओ ये लाइटनिंग कहाँ से आती है, तो बताओ ये बारिश कहाँ से आती है, तो बताओ ये वोल्केनो कैसे इरप्ट होता है, तो बताओ ये कैसे होता है, बताओ वो कैसे होता है. Now science started answering it. Now science started telling you, giving you answers of what is volcano, what is electricity, what is lightning, what is storms, what is rain, how it all functions, what is earth, what is moon, what is sun, how it was formed, the big bang. It has explained so many things, right? Now the religious teachers are going to say, मुझे बताओ ये life कहाँ से आती है, right? Science will figure out the answers. जो भी gaps थे वो तो हमने cover किए, right? Science has covered those gaps. Now nobody can say lightning is a god, right? But earlier people used to say that. Now nobody can say storm is a god or rain is a god, right? But earlier people used to believe that and say that. Now science has covered that gap, and God, so-called god of gaps, has a diminished existence now, because it can't claim to be a rain, it can't claim to be a thunder, it can't claim to be a storm, right? So when I'm talking about this life principle, this jiva tattva, right, all of it, please don't confuse or misunderstand that I'm denoting something paranormal. I am in my own, and just quoting Gita as it is as well, I'm not describing anything paranormal. I'm saying that okay, science will probably figure it out eventually, but the fact remains that there is something inside which science doesn't know as yet, and science will eventually figure out, maybe, but there is something inside us which enlivens us, right? Because life is something beyond the heart beating up, the blood pumping in, the brains getting that blood, and then having that power to have those electrical impulses running between the synaptic nodes, and the neural network getting us our memory, our intellect, our mind, our ego, and all that. There is something at work inside which enlivens us. What is it? That what is yet to be answered, but there is something. Let's call it X for now. Let's call it X, Jeev Tattva, Supreme Consciousness, Soul, whatever terminology that suits you or makes you comfortable. But there is something X which science has yet to figure out, and science will eventually. But there is something bigger, isn't it, for sure, right? You're beyond your body, and if you decide that you will be able to condition your body, you will transform your body. If something in you, if that decides that, hey, I'll eat right, I'll exercise right, you will transform this very body that you have today. Right? It will not be the same as it is today. It will probably definitely something different, and hopefully better, right? Because you're exercising and eating the right things, right? And if you do the exact opposite, if you stop exercising, if you eat junk, your body will transform and change again, right? It's you and your choices that's transforming it. There's something inside which is still common and same despite these transformations, right? Is sabke bawjood there is something, and if you believe in that, if you feel a sense of that hey, you're something beyond, that itself is a powerful force of faith that hey, your life is hugely potent, right? कि आप अभी जितने भी साल जियो, 30, 50, 40, 20, 15, whatever years that you have lived so far, there is still some life ahead of you. Until you die, you're living, right? And your living means there is that supreme force inside you which can enable you to transform yourself, transform your body, transform your mind, transform your intellect, transform your ego, and transform the life that you live in general, right? And each and every second that's going to come your way is going to bring you choices, and each of the choice has the power to transform your life. And that moment, that realization, that possibility of something as big a power residing inside you, अपने अंदर वो एक चीज का होना, is a power in itself, right? And if you can have faith in that power, that okay, that power is going to fuel everything that I do, is going to help me sustain through all the challenges that I'll face, it's going to help me work things out better. You don't need anything else. What else do you need, right? And this is where Krishna is also elaborating on this very point. He's saying that O Arjuna, there are 4 kinds of people who worship me. One is the person who's distressed, the other is the person who's curious, the other is the person who's seeker of a meaning, larger meaning of life, and the last is the person who's knowledgeable. And by the way, the man of the knowledge, being ever with me in yoga and devoted to the one only, is the foremost, for I am very dear to the man of knowledge, and he too is dear to me. Right? When Krishna is now referring to this me, right, that he is dear to me and I am very dear to the man, this I and me is not Krishna in the sense the Krishna, the body himself, but rather this life force, which is common to all of us. My life force is the same as you. It's no different, right? And that life force, the electricity example, right? The electricity that flows through the tube light, flows through the bulb, flows through the AC. It helps the AC function as air conditioner. It helps the bulb get us the light, right? It's the same electricity running through, right? It's the same way that this life force within all of us. It's the same life force, and that life force, that supreme consciousness within us, right? If as individuals we are focused on that and we are on a drive to experience that through whatever the process we have, right, that understanding itself, whether we are curious or not, whether we pursue or not, but that very understanding that yes, there is something within us which is potent, right, that life force which is giving existence to everybody around us, to all the matter around us, which has given life to this universe, that is within us, then what's there to worry about, right? So that takes care of the faith, right? So here when he says that there are 4 kinds of people, he's saying that again there are stages of maturity, but when is it that you call out God? आप भगवान को कब पूजने जाते हैं? या तो बिकॉज आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम है एंड यू से हे भगवान मुझे एग्जाम में पास करा दे, मुझे मार्क्स दे दे, एंड मैं आके चढ़ावा दूंगा, मैं प्रसाद दूंगा, वॉट एवर, राइट? व्हेन यू हैव अ प्रॉब्लम यू गो टू द गॉड, राइट? और बिकॉज यू आर क्यूरियस कि यार मैं इस भगवान के पास जाता हूँ तो मेरी मन्नत पूरी होती है, तो मैं जाके देखता हूँ, right? So it's curious because you want to see whether it yields any outcome or not. It's not because you necessarily have a challenge. It could be because you want to explore a possibility, right? There is if you don't know, there is a Visa temple in Hyderabad. Do you know that there is a temple where it's a belief that if you go there and pray, your visas are approved, right? Because there's a huge population in Hyderabad which wants to relocate to US or wherever, and there's this Visa temple where you go, probably your visa is approved, right? And if you're curious that hey, let me try that, you are that man who's curious to know whether it works, and you'll go to that God to pray, right? And there is the seeker of meaning. There's this the spiritual quest that we discussed. What is this life force? ये है क्या life force? And somebody who's on that exploration journey, and there is a person who has now experienced that life force, who's one with that life force, and knows that that life force is in all, and that life force is within me as well, right? And the dearest to the Lord, to the supreme being, to the supreme entity, is this person who's knowledgeable about his own self, right? Whose faith is within himself, is in herself, is in oneself, not in any external entity but within oneself, right? And this is where I'll end with a quote from Mark Twain, that a man cannot be comfortable without his own approval. अगर आप अपने आप को ही कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं दे पा रहे हैं, अगर आप अपने आप में ही फेथ नहीं रख पा रहे हैं, तो आपको बाहर का कोई भी क्या फेथ देगा, राइट? क्या कॉन्फिडेंस देगा? The biggest thing one can gift ourselves is faith in ourselves, is confidence in ourselves, is our own approval that okay, fine, we have our own shortcomings but we have our own strengths. There are certain things that I would love to do, I would want to do, and for that I'm okay to deprioritize everything else. I'll continue doing the work irrespective of the outcomes, irrespective of the successes and the failures. There's huge life ahead of me. Every second, every minute is going to bring me choices. Every choice is going to yield transformation, and every transformation is going to get me something bigger, better and more to contribute and deliver. If that's the focus of your life, what's there to worry about? The faith is there, inherent in you, right? All you have to do is to tap into that understanding that you're beyond the body, you're beyond the mind, you're beyond the intellect, you're beyond the ego, and you are that life force. You have that life force within you. Whether you experience it or not, whether you feel that question is worth exploring or not, कि ये है क्या life force, मैं कैसे इसको experience करूँ, and whether you pursue the path of Dnyan Yog, Raj Yog, Bhakti Yog, Karma Yog, whichever, to understand and realize and experience that life force is a different thing. It's probably a spiritual aspect, we can discount it for now for this discussion. But irrespective, the fact that there is life force within you, right? There's something more beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your intellect, beyond your ego, that is driving all this, that driving this life for you. And have faith in that life force, because that life force is sustaining the entire universe. Why won't it sustain you, right? Why won't it sustain you through those few immediate challenges that are there ahead of you in for those very limited days or months or weeks, right? That faith will give you the commitment to strive and tide through the times to come, and that will then convert that opportunity into outcomes, isn't it? And that is where Krishna is saying, yo yo yam yam tanu bhaktaha, right? That whichever devotee seeks to worship with faith, whatever form, I make that very faith steadfast. God up there, if there is any God, and if there is any supreme being, he or she or it is doing nothing else but saying yes. That's why be extremely careful about what you pray for. Be extremely careful about what you wish for, because the person above, the individual above, the entity above is just going to say yes, right? So what works for you is what you ask for, not what's been given to you, right? That's the thing. But Krishna is saying that, hey, I, that is the Lord or entity or whatever, all that I do is I make that very faith steadfast, whichever faith that you have in whatever form. Right? And there are so many people who in yom yom yam yam, that in whichever way, in whatever way they worship, and whoever they worship, in whatever form they worship, I just make that faith strong, right? So the most non-judgmental entity, if at all there is any God, then it's God. That because it's there only to say yes and say nothing else. It's not going to say, okay, depending on this I'll say yes, and depending on that I'll say no. It just says yes blindly. So what works for you is what you ask for. The more clearer you are about what you ask for, the more closer you will be to get that, right? And then endowed with that faith, he worships that form, and hence that gets the object of his desire granted in relative me alone, right? So all that is saying that idea plus action is just opportunity, and that opportunity with commitment will give you outcomes. That commitment will come from faith. So all that I do is whatever faith you have in whichever form, I just strengthen it. And because of that faith, if you persist, if you are committed, and if you continue despite the challenges, ups and downs, then you will come out of it winning, right? So the magic is in the faith, and faith is all there in yourself. Just focus on the life force that you have, right? And lastly, one quote that I've added here, because in the 6th and 7th chapter there are many quotes. बहुत सारे ऐसे quotes हैं जहाँ पे कृष्ण कहते हैं कि लोग मुझे नहीं पहचानते, मुझे तभी पहचानते हैं. So there's a lot of you can just read the 6th and 7th chapter online. All the quotes and quotations are there, translations are there, but lot of these translations and quotations are all about that how Krishna is talking about himself as some divine being, right? And hence it's often misquoted and misunderstood that Bhagavad Gita is about Krishna Bhakti, that Krishna is himself advocating that worship me, right? But that's why I'm deliberately highlighting this quote here, that Krishna is very specifically saying, not knowing my higher nature, immutable and unsurpassed, the ignorant think of me as an unmanifest entity who has now become manifest. Very, very clearly Krishna is saying that, hey, don't think of me as something special, that I am that unmanifest entity who has now become manifest. If you're thinking of me that way, it's just foolishness. You're foolish, right? Because whatever my higher nature is, that jeev, that life force, that's there in all of you as well, right? And if you are in line with that life force, if you have experienced that life force, if you have realized that you are that life force and not your body and mind and intellect and ego, then you are a realized soul the way I am, right? So only those who don't understand this think of me as something different and special and whatnot, right? This quote is a very, very clear proof that Krishna is not advocating Krishna Bhakti in any way, that he's not saying that he is God, he's not saying that he's divine. He's referring to him that way to denote that the life force that he is referring to, and he's probably definitely a realized soul, is definitely somebody who has realized that he is the life force, he's experienced the life force, and so he's coming at it from that angle of having experienced it, and telling Arjuna that, hey, the way I have done it, you can as well, right? And that's when he's saying I and me, is saying from that perspective, right? But not surely from a perspective that I am the God and I am the divine and believe in me, right? The last piece is the quote that moko kaha tu dhoond bande main to tere paas mein. This is a beautiful bhajan, which my father used to sing, something that he learned from Ramakrishna ashram. But as simply put, it just mentions that where are you trying to search me? I am in you itself. The photo that you see is the musk deer. Musk deer apparently is a deer which has that pouch or that gland which emits the beautiful fragrance, the musk fragrance. And there is this anecdote that the deer through its life tries to search where is this fragrance coming from, and it never realizes that the fragrance is coming from itself, राइट. इट्स एन एलेगोरी और एन एग्जाम्पल. ये एक मस्क डियर है, एक हरिण की जिसके पास एक ग्लैंड होता है जो एक बहुत ही बढ़िया सी फ्रेगरेंस देता है. और ये पूरी कहा जाता है, कहावत है, मे नॉट बी अ साइंटिफिक फैक्ट, आई डोंट नो फॉर श्योर, बट कहा जाता है कि ये पूरी लाइफ में ढूंढता रहता है कि ये स्मेल कहाँ से आ रही है, एंड इट नेवर रियलाइजेज दैट द स्मेल इज कमिंग फ्रॉम इट सेल्फ. इट्स जस्ट एन एग्जाम्पल टू कन्वे दैट द लाइफ फोर्स इज विद इन यू, इट्स इन ऑल ऑफ अस, it's in each and every one of us. And if at all we have to tap into something for faith and commitment, then that's life force is what we can tap into. That very feeling that hey, we are something beyond our body, beyond our mind, beyond our ego, beyond our intellect, and hence we are the ones. That life force is something that can be in the control of the body, control of the mind, control of the ego, control of the intellect, and then you can direct it and guide it into the right direction. You can tell the body that despite the pain, exercise. You can tell the mind that despite everything else, don't be swayed and be focused and concentrated on the topic at hand. You can tell the intellect to process the right things, and you can tell the ego to associate with the right things, right? It's you, and you being defined as the life force in you with like limitless potential and whatever you can achieve. And if you can tap into that faith, the problem of commitment is solved. And motivation is something that can come in from the 4 archetypes that you have. It could be either motivation because of curiosity or knowledge, motivation because of purpose, motivation because of faith in an instructor, in the guide, in the coach, or it could be because of motivation to follow the process and figure out the outcomes based on that. Depending on your own personality, you can define where should the motivation come from, where you should draw that motivation from, right? This is where I end the 7th session. Thank you for your time, and look forward to talk to you in that session again. Thank you.